Hi, Perennial Pride listeners. Thanks for joining me on this episode. So, today I'm going to cover a really basic topic: saving versus investing. In this world we live in today, there's been a commingling of these two concepts. And today I just want to break down the fundamentals of them and give you some things to consider. Now, when I think about finance, it can get complicated, but we oftentimes need to just kind of step back and understand the fundamentals. I get this from my son now, who I love watching him learn about different sports, and he's getting into new areas. And yeah, he gets so enamored with the fancier aspects of the sport. And so you got to get back to the basics, right? The blocking and tackling, as I use an analogy from football, and learn the basics of them. And so that's what we're going to cover today. And one great way to do it is to certainly read some books. One book I have my kids reading is called The Richest Man in Babylon. And it's a really great book, and I really highly encourage everyone to have a read of it, and even share with their kids, because it's pretty simple concepts. But one of the biggest lessons, the first lesson actually, it talks about paying yourself first. And I'll read this verbatim. It said, "This, my students, was the first cure I did discover for my lean purse. For each 10 coins I put in to spend but 9." So in essence, it's saying, hey, save 10% of what you make and put it somewhere, right? And so just spending less than you make is a good rule of thumb, and then saving those dollars somewhere. And this is where we start making split. Well, what's the difference between saving and investing? Well, saving in my mind is money that is liquid, doesn't lose, it's not at risk, it is accessible to be used when needed. So that's, to me, saving money. Investing has a different. Obviously, investing, we're looking for higher rates of growth. We wanted to use some of our savings that we built up to invest in something. It could be a business, could be real estate, could be the stock market, whatever it is. But all those things we're investing in, either they come with risk, and sometimes it's a liquid, and those dollars are not easily accessible. So we're looking those for more mid to longer term sort of lenses, as opposed to the savings side is money that we can access when we need it, can be pretty much assured that won't lose, and we can obtain it when we need it. And so that's, to me, the biggest difference as we think about saving and investing. And it's just ironic because, when you look at things like a 401k plan, they call them retirement savings plans. And we know that those have room for loss. And so just want to break those two concepts up and then put them in their place. And obviously, they're all savings will drive us to investing, but we got to start saving first. So where do we save? Well, we've all been taught pretty basic, right? Even if you get a job and income comes in after Uncle Sam takes their cut of it up front, the rest goes into a bank account, right? And then we can do something with it. And so that's usually the first starting point, whether it's a savings account, which is typical, right? And you probably have some in checking too. And those aren't really earning all that much, right? So they do have some FDIC insurance, and so there are protections around it, but so you won't lose it, but it's not really earning all that much. You're earning under 1% these days. And there are some that are growing in rates of return, maybe an online account that has less accessibility through ATMs and such. But at any rate, they're your basic vanilla savings and checking accounts. So unfortunately, they're not going to grow that much, at least in this day and age, and it's going to lose money to inflation, right? If you're earning, say, less than 2% on these things, which we know inflation way higher than that today. So yes, they come with liquidity. You can grab them easily and obtain the dollars. So there is something to be said of having some dollars there. A kind of offshoot of this is money market accounts. So money market accounts are typically with banks as well, and come with some restrictions and maybe minimum balances. And you might get a slightly better rate of return, but still nothing to write home about. They're going to be typically low, somewhere close, a little bit better than maybe your typical savings account, but nothing massive. And there's no tax benefits to them, but they are liquid and accessible and protected, just like a savings and checking account. Now, another option a lot of people are going towards now, especially when they're seeking safety, is Treasury Bonds and Bills, right? These are ones issued by the government and backed by the good faith of our government. And so you can get something as basic as a 30-day window or up to, multiple years, right? 30 years, maybe 10-year bonds. So these are backed by the government. So have some safety built into them. They do offer higher rates of return. Certainly, I've seen even these days in the 3% range for the ones that are longer term, but they are bonds. And so if you keep those in savings vehicles to maturity, you're pretty much guaranteed that interest rate you'll see those. But if you do decide to sell them, then just like bonds, they can lose, right? Because if interest rates rise, then the value of that bond will go down in value. They work in the inverse relationship. So you can lose money. Look what's happening these days where bonds actually have lost because of the direction of interest rates. So they're not free from loss, which is something I want to, in terms of my definition of saving, is that well, we don't want to lose. It's money that is not going to lose and is accessible. So unfortunately for treasuries, and then when you kind of migrate into higher risk areas like corporate bonds or high yield bonds, they're going to come with some additional risk and lack of liquidity. Or if you need to sell them, they're going to come with some loss, a potential for loss when you need to liquidate them. So a very different animal in the sense that it's not like a savings account and comes with some disadvantages from loss, right? And so you come with some risk of loss. And so that's why when you enter the world of bond, which most people would think they go counter to equities or the stock market, they have a chance of loss and a little less liquid than say a savings account or a money market account. Oh, the one other thing that I forgot to mention too is around CDs, the certificate deposits where you get at banks as well, where they're going to maybe hold your money for longer periods of time, but give you a little extra interest rates of doing so. But there would be some penalty from utilizing those assets. You want to liquidate that. So you give up some of the interest that you accrued, but you're offered more upfront in terms of interest because you're going to not touch those dollars for, say, a certain amount of time. But still, in today's world, CDs aren't earning all that much either, and are going to lose ground to inflation, just like any of those other options we discussed. Now, the place that I have found to be a tremendous spot to save money is in specially designed high cash value life insurance policies. And they have to be designed uniquely to allow for additional cash to be infused into them because, life insurance, they could be used more as a long-term savings vehicle, but if designed in the typical approach, it really won't build up much cash early on. So you're going to be behind quite a bit early. But if you design them properly, you can speed that up if that is part of the goal is to have liquidity. And thankfully within these types of policies, there is a little provision buried in them that you can access the life insurance company's dollars guaranteed when you need it, while your dollars continues to grow and provide some protection. So this is a great place to store wealth long term. It's protected from taxes, from loss. It can really help balance off the risk areas of your financial life while also providing protections against death, disability, lawsuits. So this is where in broader sense of personal finances, I love assets and strategies where your dollars can do so many different jobs at the same time and using these specially designed life insurance policies. Space gives you a lot of things around your save protections arm, but gives you a tremendous spot to save money that's going to be there, guaranteed to grow and is protected against taxes. So you get to keep more of it. So even though, say, these long term are not going to beat the stock market per se, maybe they'll make 4 or 5%, but it's also protected from taxes. So, and if you use them properly, you'll never pay taxes on them. And then you have the death benefit that'll also provide tax free dollars to beneficiaries that you want to provide money to. So really, really tremendous tool from a savings perspective and a protection perspective. And even with these, you'll save money on the other side that may not need to buy as much term insurance when you're younger to to protect against a premature death. So you can put it into an asset instead of kind of renting your life insurance. So just another thought to consider as you're thinking about ways to save money that will never lose and provide some other benefits. I think this is an area of an option that you might want to consider. And so if this is something you want to learn more about, plenty of resources with this, and certainly reach out and can certainly share more about it to see if it could be a good fit for you and what you're doing. But hopefully this was helpful to give you a better lens of saving versus investing. It's something that, we can easily overlook, and having ample liquidity and protections really in place is really what's going to keep us immune to things that are going to happen that we cannot control. The next market crash in any asset, or, an unsuspected sort of loss of job, whatever it is, it gives us that protection and foundation that can keep us strong and healthy with our finances for the long term. So, this was helpful, and we'll be back for another episode of the Perennial Pride Podcast. Thank you for being with us here today on the Perennial Pride Podcast. It's an honor to be a small part of your journey to financial freedom. If you gained new insight on today's episode, please follow us on your favorite podcast app, such as Apple or Spotify, and follow us on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Also, we always love feedback on helping to improve what we're doing here. So please provide in comments and questions so we can make this podcast even more helpful for you.